All right. Welcome to 1 p.m. session. So we have another interesting topic. तो फोकस के बारे में जब हम बात करते हैं तो बहुत सारे मिथ हैं हम सबके मन में, क्योंकि बहुत सारे लोगों से बहुत सारी बातें सुनी हैं, डिफरेंट डिफरेंट वेरिएशन है, कल्चरल, रीजनल, हमने जहाँ भी सुना, जैसे भी सुना। तो फोकस के बारे में क्या हमारे एजम्पशंस हैं या क्या हमारे आइडियाज़ हैं, अगर हम शेयर करें तो सभी। ऐसी कोई एक बात जो हमें एट सम पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम लगती थी कि फोकस ये है, बट लेटर हमें रियलाइज हुआ कि नहीं, फोकस तो ये नहीं है, कुछ और है। ऐसा कुछ किसी के मन में?
शादी के पहले और शादी के बाद।
ओके, क्या चेंज हुआ? इंटरेस्टिंग है, क्या चेंज हुआ लेकिन?
बता के नहीं लिखने तो बहुत कुछ है।
ओके ओके।
When you before marriage we were meeting off and on for almost 2.5 years. तो जो बाहर दिखता था वही दिखता था, वही बिका। जब एक छत के आए नीचे आए for 24/7, we could see the other side of the coin.
हम्म।
So naturally focus was when we purchased the product. After purchasing the product, we discovered what is inside the product, what is inside the box.
हम्म। ओके, तो ऑथर जिस तरफ इशारा कर रहे हैं वो बात ये है, जो बहुत ही एक पॉपुलर मिथ है, और हम सब ने कहीं ना कहीं एक्सपीरियंस किया होगा, या हो सकता है हम में से कई लोग अभी भी मानते हों कि फोकस करने से ऐसा नहीं हो जाएगा कि कितना टेंशन टेंशन में जी रहे हैं दिन भर, फोकस करते रहो, फोकस करते रहो। भाई चिल रहो, रिलैक्स रहो, इतना फोकस फोकस क्यों बोलते हो? ऐसा कई लोग सोच सकते हैं, बोलते भी हैं। तो ऐसा आप सबकी लाइफ में कभी आया है कि फोकस लाइफ मतलब हर समय थोड़ी ना फोकस हो सकते हैं? ठीक है, 2 घंटे, 4 घंटे, 8 घंटे रह लो, बाकी टाइम तो चिल रहो। तो डू वी एग्री विद दिस?
जी, हुआ है क्योंकि मेरे एक ब्रदर बोला है कि हर टाइम अटेंशन नहीं कोई दे नहीं सकते, तो
फिर आप,
चिल रहो।
तो फिर आपने एग्री किया उनकी बात से या डिसएग्री किया?
ये नहीं, क्योंकि क्योंकि हर टाइम नहीं कर सकते, बट कोशिश करना है कि फोकस करना है। तो जब नहीं फोकस किए तो तब भी मैं तो कोशिश कर रही हूँ कि फोकस नहीं करना है। तो तो मुझे मेरे एक स्वभाव है कि मेरे हर बात में कोई भी हाँ कर देता हूँ। तो आप मुझे फोकस हुआ कि ना, हर बात में यस नहीं करना है, सोच समझ के यस करना है। तो उस पर मैं फोकस किया। और एक बात है, लाइफ में इस लाइफ में मैं इनकम के बारे में कोई नहीं सोचा था। अब मैं फोकस किया ना, मुझे भी कुछ इनकम करना है, खुद के खुद की इनकम करना है। तो उसके बारे में मैं सोच रहा हूँ, लाइफ के एकदम आगे बढ़ने, क्योंकि मुझे डिप्रेशन में आ गया थे, मेरे लाइफ कुछ थम गया था, इसलिए। तो मुझे लाइफ में आगे बढ़ना है, उम, देखना है क्या होगा लाइफ में।
ओके, थैंक्स फॉर शेयरिंग योर थॉट्स। तो क्या लगता है हम सबको कि फोकस्ड स्टेट ऑफ माइंड कैन बी अ नेचुरल थिंग 24/7, और इट इज ओनली व्हेन वी आर डूइंग समथिंग लाइक पोमोडोरो सेशन और डीप वर्क? क्या लगता है स्नेहा जी, क्या एक्सपीरियंस है?
जैसे while I was listening and when you asked, तभी मुझे ऐसे ऐसे स्ट्राइक हुआ कि फोकस को जैसे हम बोलते हैं, अगर फोकस्ड नहीं है तो जैसे अगर पानी पानी की टंकी होती है, तो इट्स वाटर रिजर्वायर, and if suppose there are 5-6 apartments in buildings, flats in the apartment, सबने अगर ठीक से उसको यूटिलाइज नहीं किया और टैप ऐसे ही रहा, ऑन रहा, चला जा रहा है, तो इफ वी डोंट फोकस आवर वट एवर अवेलेबल रिसोर्सेस या टाइम अगर एज अ रिसोर्स देखें, तो उसको फोकस्ड वे में अगर यूटिलाइज नहीं किया तो देन इट इज लॉस्ट, एंड देन वी माइट नॉट गेट दैट बैक ऑल्सो। तो उस तरह से, हाँ, बट सेकेंड पॉइंट इज कि अगर पूरा दिन फोकस्ड होना प्रोबेबली पॉसिबल नहीं भी है, व्हेन यू डिसाइड कि इस टाइम फोकस रहना है, उसके बाद मे बी with time it will become like a practice and you will be habituated to focus on anything that you are doing. So at that point in time, so attention wandering off from whatever you're doing means you're not focused.
ओके, मान लीजिए कोई आके आपसे कहता है कि इसने आज ये आधा एक घंटा तो ठीक है फोकस रह लेंगे, ज़्यादा करेंगे तो सर दर्द हो जाता है, ये फोकस फोकस की बात हमसे मत करो, तो आप क्या कहोगे?
तो रिक्वायर्ड ब्रेक्स उसमें बीच बीच में, सो वी शुड नो हाउ मच टाइम किसी चीज में एकदम, क्योंकि अगर कुछ काम भी कर रहे होते हैं, ऑफिस का भी काम है या कुछ ऐसा है, कंटिन्यूअसली वो उसके बाद ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग चल रही है मीटिंग में, पर उसका कुछ निकलता नहीं है बियॉन्ड अ पॉइंट, तो देन वी शुड ऑलवेज स्टेप बैक एंड टेक सम ब्रेक। तो वो ब्रेक डेफिनेटली रिक्वायर्ड है, टू रिफ्लेक्ट अपॉन, पॉज इज रिक्वायर्ड।
ओके, तो मतलब जब हम ब्रेक ले रहे हैं तो उस टाइम हमें ये लिबर्टी है कि हम फोकस ना रहें, ऐसा है?
मतलब टास्क एट हैंड से कुछ और, लेकिन उसमें भी कुछ और प्लानिंग की जा सकती है। दैट्स
हम्म।
व्हाट आई फील, कि कुछ और प्लान करके कुछ और हम क्या कर रहे हैं जो आपके फोकस को और इम्प्रूव करता हो।
तो इसमें बेसिकली हम सब साथ में ही डिस्कस कर रहे हैं और कोई भी हमारा एजम्पशन नहीं है, इवन ऑथर ने भी जो लिखा है वो परम सत्य तो नहीं है, हम उस पर भी क्रिटिकल हो सकते हैं। तो वी कैन लुक एट फोकस इन टू वेज। वन इज के फोकस इज द क्वालिटी ऑफ माई बीइंग, मतलब इफ आई एम ए फोकस्ड पर्सन तो आई एम फोकस्ड ऑल द टाइम रिगार्डलेस ऑफ द एक्टिविटी विच आई एम डूइंग। सेकेंड थिंग इज दैट कि आई स्विच इट ऑन स्विच इट ऑफ when as per the requirement, as per the occasion. So which idea you associate with?
सेकेंड वाला ही, आई कैन स्विच इट ऑन स्विच इट ऑफ व्हेन रिक्वायर्ड।
ओके ओके, सौरभ जी क्या कहना है आपका?
मेरे को जो लगता है मतलब फोकस, जैसे अब फॉर एग्जांपल फोकस के लिए जो प्राइमरी एग्जांपल सोच दिमाग में आता है इज व्हेन यू फोकस यूजिंग अ मैग्नीफाइंग ग्लास द सन्स रेज ऑन अ पॉइंट। तो वो एक पॉइंट या एक सरफेस या एक जो टास्क एट हैंड है दैट हैज टू बी डिफाइंड। बट व्हेन यू से फोकस ऑल द टाइम, बट ऑन व्हाट, वो सब्जेक्ट क्या होना चाहिए ऑन व्हाट यू आर फोकसिंग, राइट? सो दैट इज आल्सो एन एफर्ट टू डिफाइन व्हाट यू हैव टू फोकस ऑन. So if on a periphery level or on a blanket level, saying ki I will be focused throughout the day, but on what? That is the most important question. So when we start thinking about that, then I think we switch to the second, uh, you know, thought that you brought. Ki we decide on and off on what to focus on, right? So I also resonate with the second way of thinking.
ओके, तो ठीक है, इसी थॉट के साथ थोड़ा हम रीडिंग शुरू करते हैं, फिर आगे आगे देखते हैं क्या होता है। जस्ट अ मिनट। Please give me 1 minute. Meanwhile, you can communicate with each other.
Akriti ji, you were saying something. You had unmuted yourself in between. आपको कुछ ऐड करना है?
I was saying कि once I was planning too much. Like for every hour I was allocating what I'll be doing in that hour. So for few days I was successful and felt very productive. But at some point then I started feeling very overwhelmed. Like when I was not able to complete those tasks that I thought to complete. So I started feeling guilty, and then eventually I stopped doing it. And yeah, so that, like, I felt that too much of planning and trying to be too much focused actually caused me a lot of stress. So
Yeah, I think many of us have been there. I have also been there.
yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, ji, who would like to volunteer to read?
I can read.
Okay.
Demystifying focus. The many misconceptions surrounding focus arise because people don't understand what focus is. Their misconceptions often lead people to have a very skewed or misinformed perspective on focus, and thus to shun focus as a and thus to shun focus as a quality to cultivate in life. Let's address some of these misconceptions here in order to dispel them and recalibrate people's understanding of what focus actually is.
जी, तो बेसिक का भी प्रीमाइस ये है कि कुछ मिसकंसेप्शन है, धीरे धीरे करके उनको डिस्पेल करेंगे. तो पहला है बीइंग फोकस्ड इज एग्जॉस्टिंग. यस.
Being focused is exhausting. A gentleman once remarked to me, "It takes so much energy and effort to be focused all day. It's quite exhausting." I replied by asking him, "How much effort and energy does it take for you to be distracted all day?" He replied without hesitation, "Not at all. In fact, I can effortlessly do it all day." You can practice distraction all day because you've spent years developing distractive patterns within your subconscious. Because of this, it requires no effort on your part to do so, and hence it is not exhausting. For the person who has been trained in the fine art of concentration, who has spent years creating patterns of focus in the subconscious through devotion to the practice of concentration, whose awareness is under the dominion of the will, being in a state of focus all day is effortless and not exhausting as well.
ओके, तो जो हमारी ऑडियंस है, हिंदी स्पीकिंग ऑडियंस, उनके लिए हम क्या इसमें इंसाइट शेयर कर सकते हैं कि हमारी क्या अंडरस्टैंडिंग इससे है अभी तक? कोई भी एनीवन?
Can you repeat the question?
आपकी वॉइस थोड़ी लो हो गई है.
मेरी ना?
हाँ.
ओके,
नहीं,
सॉरी.
Rahul bhai is just asking to summarize in Hindi what we have read so far.
हाँ, और योर रिफ्लेक्शन, मतलब एनीवन्स रिफ्लेक्शन ऑन दिस, कि अच्छा ये बात है, ये बात निकल कर आई. मतलब इसमें हिडन, मतलब बिटवीन द लाइंस प्रिंसिपल क्या है? क्या प्रिंसिपल बाहर है इस बात से?
मेरे अकॉर्डिंग जो ऑथर शेयर करना चाह रहे हैं वो ये बात है कि हमको लगता है कि फोकस करने में बहुत एनर्जी जाती है, बहुत एफर्ट जाता है. बट आई थिंक व्हाट पॉइंट ही इज ट्राइंग टू प्रूव इज कि ओवर द इयर्स आप साल दर साल जिस चीज पे ज्यादा फोकस करते हो, जिस चीज को करने पे रादर फोकस, नो, प्रैक्टिसिंग द आर्ट ऑफ फोकस और प्रैक्टिसिंग द आर्ट ऑफ डिस्ट्रैक्शन। तो जिस भी चीज पे ज्यादा फोकस किया है वो मसल मेमोरी बन गई है। तो हम हमेशा से डिस्ट्रैक्टेड रहते आए हैं ओवर द इयर्स, तो डिस्ट्रैक्शन हमारा नेचुरल स्टेट ऑफ बीइंग हो गया है और उससे दूर जाने में हमको डिफिकल्टी फील होती है। ऑन द कॉन्ट्ररी कोई ऐसा पर्सन है who is practicing focus as as a part of his daily practice, his or her daily practice, तो उनके लिए फोकस से दूर जाना शायद एफर्ट होगा। तो वो बोलते हैं ना, वेयर द अटेंशन गोज योर एनर्जी फ्लोज, या ऐसा कुछ। तो इट्स अबाउट कि आप कौन सा मसल को ज्यादा डेवलप करना चाहते हो, वेदर इट इज द डिस्ट्रैक्शन मसल और द फोकस मसल।
वो अगर हम इसमें रिफ्लेक्शन करें इसमें हम, तो एक बात थॉट मन में ये भी आता है कि जब ये कोई ये कह रहा है कि हमें फोकस करना मुश्किल लगता है, तो वो झूठ नहीं बोल रहे हैं, वो सच कह रहे हैं।
करेक्ट।
एंड वी शुड acknowledge it, we should appreciate the fact, yes, it may be difficult for them, but also knowing the thing कि yes, it can be otherwise also if they practice it over a period of time. तो इस तरह की कोई और रियलाइजेशन, कोई और रिफ्लेक्शन, किसी के मन में कोई थॉट आ रहा है, किसी और चीज के साथ कनेक्ट हो रहा है कि एक्चुअली नथिंग इज डिफिकल्ट, नथिंग इज इजी, इट इज अबाउट व्हाट वी आर प्रैक्टिसिंग। किसी के मन
It's
में
like
कभी।
other side of the coin.
जी सर।
It's like other side of the coin, other side of the same coin.
या।
So every time you toss it, either you'll get a heads or a tail. So when you're getting most of the tails, you arrive at a conclusion, probably you will get tails only.
यस। यस।
The chances are always 50-50.
यस।
The distraction is the tail part, and the attention is the head part. So that's what author is saying, very tricky, that if you have become an expert in distraction and it doesn't matter to you, exactly the same thing when you focus on concentration. So the person who is concentrating, for him it's a default process, it's an automatic process.
यस। ओके जी, आगे बढ़ते हैं। लेट अस कंटिन्यू। एनीवन हु हैज।
आकृति, you can continue.
Acha.
जी।
Anyone who has not been trained in the arts of concentration will find it exhausting to concentrate for extended periods of time. Anyone who has not been trained in the arts of concentration will find it exhausting to concentrate for extended periods of time. If you ask your mind to do something that it does not have deeply ingrained patterns of or has not been trained to do, then naturally it will require a lot more energy to do. An arborist can prune trees for hours, having built the muscles needed for this task. Whereas a person who is pruning a tree for the first time may find the experience quite exhausting. It is not any different with the mind. Anything that the mind is not used to doing requires a lot more effort and energy and can be deemed exhausting. And speaking of exhaustion, it is worth pointing that it is very exhausting for a focused person to spend time with someone who is highly distracted. It is very exhausting for a focused person to spend time with someone who is distracted. To follow someone's awareness as it bounces indiscriminately within the mind is very exhausting. The focused awareness is now being asked to do something it is not used to doing, and the very act is exhausting. As awareness bounces all over the place, energy flows all over the place, leading to a significant loss of energy.
जी, साथ साथ में थोड़ा थोड़ा कोई और रिफ्लेक्शन शेयर करते जाएं, 1 या 2 लाइंस के, हाँ ऐसा हमने एक्सपीरियंस किया है, ऐसा होता है, तो पीपल विल बी एबल टू कनेक्ट इट मोर। एनीवन? जैसे कितनी इंटरेस्टिंग लाइन है कि इट इज वर्थ पॉइंटिंग आउट दैट इट इज वेरी एग्जॉस्टिंग फॉर ए फोकस्ड पर्सन टू स्पेंड टाइम विद समवन हु इज हाईली डिस्ट्रैक्टेड एंड अदरवाइज ऑल्सो। जो डिस्ट्रैक्टेड होगा वो फोकस पर्सन के साथ क्या 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 बोर हो गया 1 घंटा यार।
Yeah, and maybe vice versa as well.
Yeah.
But whatever the author is talking about here is applicable for anything new that you and I attempt to learn. So initially there will be difficulties anyways. Like it's just like how to drive a car or how to ride a bicycle if you have never done it before. Initial hiccups will be there. As you keep on practicing it, it eventually becomes automatic for you and me.
Right.
Simple example that I can relate to this is when you start to drive a car. Initial few days में मतलब आपको कोई भी डिस्ट्रैक्शन, इवन कोई म्यूजिक भी ऑन कर देगा कार में, तो आपको लगेगा नहीं नहीं म्यूजिक ऑफ करो, आई हैव टू फोकस ऑन ड्राइविंग। एंड ओवर द इयर्स व्हेन यू हैव डन दैट ओवर एंड ओवर अगेन, तो शायद आपको याद भी नहीं होगा कि आपने कब स्टार्ट किया व्हीकल, कब आप गेट से बाहर निकाल के ये रोड पे आ गए। इट बिकम्स सो मच ऑफ अ मसल मेमोरी, विदाउट एनी एफर्ट यू आर एबल टू डू that entire cycle, which earlier was taking so much of effort, awareness of everything, side mirror, a mirror, wo mirror. You look at all the mirrors now. You don't hardly, are worried about, uh, the ecosystem when you are experienced enough in that. So same stands true for maybe focusing, art of focusing as well.
And in context of levels of learning, it is known as, anyone fill in the gaps? Unconscious competence, which is the desirable state of being, unconscious competence. Okay, second myth is fear of missing out. Okay, who will read next? Yes, Niyazi, आप हैं?
Okay, I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Fear of missing out, which these days people also refer to it as FOMO.
Mhm.
I had a person once say to me, as he raised his hands to either side of his face, mimicking having blinders on, like this, I don't want to be so focused that I miss out on other things in life. It's common for people to think that when you're focused, you have tunnel vision. It's true that awareness is locked on one thing, but as you know now, focus gives birth to observation. So, contrary to popular belief that focus makes you miss out on things, it actually does not. In fact, focus makes you more observant, which means you become more conscious of everything around you.
इंटरेस्टिंग है ये बात। तो टनल विजन जो कॉन्सेप्ट है ये हमने कहाँ कहाँ पढ़ा है और कहाँ कहाँ ये यूज होता है, आता है? इट्स अ गुड थिंग टू हैव।
It's a good thing to have if you have a very focused goal and which is time bound, and you have to achieve it in a very short span of time, and every minute counts. So in that case, I think tunnel vision matters, wherein you do not get worried or distracted by any of the side scenes and are constantly focused on one particular goal, like typically for competitive examination. Uh,
So
राइट।
for a large, maybe the biggest goal that you have, for that we can have a tunnel vision sideways जो भी चल रहा हो.
ओके, तो एक और इसमें प्रिंसिपल निकल कर आया, फोकस गिव्स बर्थ टू ऑब्जर्वेशन। इंटरेस्टिंग है। ओके, ब्लॉकिंग
but
एवरीथिंग।
I have a contrary belief on this as well.
जी।
When you're focusing too much on one aspect of your life, you tend to ignore the other aspects. Maybe it is not directly related to focus, but for example, I personally experience this. So, for example, one is spiritual well-being, and another is like professional well-being, for example. I feel that when I'm too focused on the spiritual well-being part of it, I get too inclined to that. I'll read too much on those lines and get and that time I maybe do not focus so much on my professional progress, and I feel I have missed out a bit on those aspects. And on the on the contrary, when I do the opposite, I feel I have become less spiritual and I'm not as aware as I used to be. So yeah, just the thought.
ओके, तो ये बात सुन के किसी के मन में कोई फ्रेमवर्क का याद आ रहा है? Which
Balance.
balance and how? Any framework? First thing first. Wheel of life.
Wheel of life.
अगर व्हील
Different
ऑफ लाइफ
slice.
को हम हाँ टाइम टू टाइम कंसीडर करते रहें या बैक ऑफ द माइंड हमारे वो चलता रहे कि कुछ ऐसी चीज़ तो नहीं है, आई एम फेलिंग टू नोटिस, तो वो चीज़ फिर हम उससे अनअवेयर नहीं होंगे मे बी. ओके, ब्लॉकिंग एवरीथिंग आउट. जी.
It's quite common to hear athletes say, I just block everything out and focus on the game. Let's analyze this statement. To block something means that awareness has to go to what it is blocking. Take a defensive linebacker in American football, for example. One of his jobs is to stop the running back from getting past the defensive line. In order to block this person, he needs to go to him. If there were only one linebacker, then he would have to run up to each offensive player and block each of them individually. Similarly, if you say, I am going to block everything out in the context of what we have covered in this book, you are saying that your awareness, like the linebacker, is going to everything, one at a time, to block them out. Essentially, that is what a person is saying when he says, I just block everything out. That is anything but focused. It's highly critical to train ourselves to understand how the mind works. One of the key factors in doing so is using the correct terminology and words. This can come only from having a solid understanding of how awareness and the mind work. And that is why I spent much time focusing on this in the early chapters of the book. The athlete would be better off saying, I am going to be completely focused on the game. By doing so, he is observant of what is going on around him, but his awareness is not engaged in what is going on around him. Okay. So he's saying, I'm going to be completely focused on the game. So that means he's saying I will be observant of what is going around me, but awareness will not be engaged in what is going on around him. Awareness is completely absorbed in playing the game. There is nothing to block out on the path to achieving unwavering focus.
क्या हम इसको इस बात के साथ भी कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं, देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ गोल्स टू हैव, टुवर्ड्स एंड अवे फ्रॉम. So rather than having away from goals, we can have towards goal.
In professional context, I've heard people saying that 5 things I should be doing more of and 5 things I should be doing less of. I mean, that kind of
Mhm.
awareness, typically in a manager subordinate conversation, growth conversations, help
Yes.
you grow professionally to understand what to block out and to
Yes.
focus on.
सौरभ भाई आप कंटिन्यू करेंगे, एब्सेंस ऑफ जॉय.
Sure. Absence of joy. If a person were to visualize someone focusing, they would most likely visualize a person whose eyes are slightly squinted and locked in on the subject of focus. The forehead slightly crinkled with an absorbed and attentive look across her face. With such a visualization, it is hard to imagine that the person is relaxed. On the contrary, if the same person were asked to visualize a relaxed person, they might perhaps visualize a person running carefree on a beach, arms stretched out to the sides, embracing the wind blowing on her face and through her hair. With this visualization, it's easy to conclude that she looks free, relaxed, and joyous. With both visualizations placed next to each other, one would want to say, I don't want to be so focused that I can't enjoy life. I want to be relaxed and happy, not focused and serious all the time. Again, this misunderstanding is born out of the fact that people are not clear on what focus is. A person who has been trained to focus does not walk around with a crinkled forehead, slightly squinted eyes, and an absorbed look. Focus is her natural state of mind. For her, it takes no effort to be focused. She can be relaxed and focused at the same time. And because she's focused, she gives everything and everyone in her life her undivided attention, which results in a fulfilling experience in every engagement. Contentment, joy, and happiness are only some of the feelings experienced as a result.
Okay, so any thought on this so far?
Right. So, focus in general, what we typically relate to or visualize in our mind is exactly what author is trying to show us here, wherein we feel that being too much focused, and that is what brings the thought as well कि हमेशा हमें focus होने के लिए मत बोलो. हम थोड़ी देर focus हो सकते हैं, but we have to be carefree and happy, joyous at other times, because we relate focus to being, in a stressed situation where we are just constantly bothered about, how I can do better in this moment, how I can get better in my life and whatnot. So he's trying to burst that myth that being focused is not equal to being stressed and being too absorbed, as author is saying.
तो इसको हम ऐसे भी कह सकते हैं कि फोकस और रिलैक्स्ड, ये इक्वेशन ये नहीं है, फोकस इक्वेशन ये हो सकती है फोकस्ड एंड रिलैक्स्ड, और नहीं है एंड है.
Correct.
अगर हम और सोचेंगे तो फिर डुअलिटी आ जाएगी, या तो हम रिलैक्स्ड होंगे या फिर हम फोकस्ड होंगे. आपका फेवरेट टॉपिक माइंडफुलनेस.
Mindfulness. I would be remiss if I did not admit that the word mindfulness invokes in me the same reaction I have when I hear fingernails scratch across a blackboard. A needless, gentle reminder that I am a human and there are things that irk me. The use of the word is grossly perverted, devil its devil may care use sees more action than a turnstile at the Times Square subway station in Manhattan. I'll rein in my feelings and direct my awareness to the purpose of bringing up this topic. Let's define mindfulness. The Oxford English Dictionary defines mindfulness as a mental state achieved by concentrating on the present. A careful examination of this definition would reveal that mindfulness is a byproduct of concentration, a mental state that results from being focused. Merriam-Webster dictionary's definition of mindfulness is the practice of maintaining a non-judgmental state of heightened or complete awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, or experiences on moment-to-moment basis. I'm going to abbreviate this definition but still keep the meaning and words used and say the practice of maintaining a state of complete awareness of one's experiences on a moment-to-moment basis. Note that they use the word awareness differently than I do. Based on both these definitions, I can surmise that if I were able to concentrate, keep my awareness on one thing for long enough, only then could I be conscious, that is mindful or observant of what it is that I am focused on. From this, we can conclude that we don't practice mindfulness, we don't practice being observant. Instead, what we do is practice concentration. Mindfulness and observation are states of mind that come as byproducts of awareness being trained to be concentrated for prolonged periods of time. In other words, concentration is necessary to experience the state of mindfulness or observation. When you hear someone say practice mindfulness, technically they are making an incorrect statement. what can you practice in concentration? And what follows is a state of mindfulness. Concentration gives birth to the mental state of mindfulness, which without it would not be born. Without concentration, would not be born. If a person is distracted, which means that their awareness jumps from one thing to another in an uncontrolled way, how can they maintain a state of complete awareness of one's experiences on a moment to moment basis? They simply can't. To tell someone who is distracted that they need to practice being mindful is a nescient request or a futile request.
Okay. Any reflection on this so far? These definitions
I
or it is.
think what author is trying to define is that while mindfulness itself is a state of being in the moment, it's difficult to do it or practice, uh, or rather he's saying practicing it. Mindfulness itself is the incorrect statement because it is a byproduct of being focused or being concentrated on something. So yeah, I mean, mindfulness is being used and leveraged as a terminology in all the wrong ways in general. But to be mindful is equal to being concentrated or being focused. So when you're focused or concentrated, you are already mindful. You don't have to practice mindfulness as such.
Yeah. One must.
Yeah, one must first tell them to practice concentration. So instead of telling someone to practice mindfulness, we should first tell them to practice concentration. Once they're able to hold awareness of one thing for an extended period of time, only then can they begin to become conscious of their experiences on a moment to moment basis. Same on the same lines of what we were discussing yesterday. Concentration on simple thing as a breath, in breath, out breath. That is where a lot of people start teaching mindfulness because only then we are able to concentrate on one specific thing and then only we can extend it to a moment awareness. Now they can experience being mindful or observant. Similarly, you don't practice being happy, you experience being happy. It's a state of mind. Happiness is an emotional byproduct of an experience you have or the awareness being present, or awareness being in a particular area of the mind. So just like we cannot practice happiness, we cannot practice mindfulness. So instead of telling people to practice mindfulness, tell them to practice concentration. And mindfulness will be a mental state achieved by concentrating on what they are engaged in. This would be a proper use and understanding of the term mindfulness.
All right. Great. So, who would like to read next? Multitasking. किसी का favorite topic?
सबका.
आकृति जी और पिनाकी नहीं कर रहे हैं तो मैं लेती हूँ.
Okay.
Understanding multitasking. The shorter way to do many things is to only do one thing at a time. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Multitasking, like distraction, is the antithesis of focus. To understand multitasking, it is best that we define it. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines multitasking as the performance of multiple tasks at one time. The Oxford Dictionary defines multitasking in two ways. With regard to a person, it defines it as the ability to deal with more than one task at the same time. With regard to a computer, it defines it as the ability to execute more than one program or task simultaneously. These are very clear definitions of multitasking. When a person is multitasking, what essentially is happening is that his awareness is shifting back and forth between two things. Awareness cannot be in two places at the same time. A person who is driving and talking on the phone at the same time is having his awareness move back and forth between the conversation and driving. This is not only dangerous, but is both time and energy consuming. Energy consuming because, remember, where awareness goes, energy flows. Let me use an analogy to illustrate how multitasking is hugely energy consuming. Imagine for a moment awareness is like a car, and the gasoline that fuels the car is energy. If the car traveled back and forth between two neighboring cities repeatedly, it would consume a lot of gas in comparison to the car that is just idling in one place. It is the same with awareness. As awareness travels back and forth repeatedly between two things, it consumes a lot of energy. Awareness has to engage with item A for a brief period, then disengage from it in order to engage with item B. Now it is engaged with item B for a brief moment before needing to disengage with it and re-engage with item A. When it re-engages with item A, awareness must now identify where it left off previously and then re-engage itself in that particular area of the thread of conversation or activity again. All of this is hugely energy consuming. As this process is repeated over and over again in the process of multitasking, vast amounts of energy are consumed. Productivity and efficiency plummet to much lower levels than what they could be if a concentrated state of mind were maintained. So many people multitask, delusionally believing that they are being highly productive and getting lots done. On the contrary, they are only vastly wasting two of their most precious resources, their time and energy. My perspective on multitasking and what it does to a person is not from scientific physiological research. Rather, it is from an inner experience of awareness and the mind. If you're interested in reading about scientific research on multitasking, I suggest you search online where you'll find plenty of neurological and psychological studies suggesting that multitasking is a myth.
ओके, तो हमारा पार्ट 3 एंड चैप्टर 8 कंप्लीट. लेकिन इट इज़ इम्पोर्टेंट टू डिस्कस मल्टीटास्किंग, क्योंकि बहुत ही एक ऐसा ग्रे एरिया है जिसमें अलग अलग अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, सबकी अलग अलग एक्सपीरियंस है. तो हम लोगों का एक्सपीरियंस क्या है? पिताकी, आई थिंक आपने तो कोई इस पे प्रोजेक्ट या समथिंग कुछ था आपका ना इसका?
See, right now what we are doing, we are reading the book with eyes, with our ears, and somebody is reading it out. So three multitasking is happening. I want to understand how energy is getting depleted because of that. In many parts, whatever author has said, it's all according to his model of the world, and I strongly disagree with many of his points. Now, I would say we are concentrating every moment. The only difference is whether I'm aware of it or not, but what I'm concentrating to right now. As long as I am alive, as long as my senses are working, I'm definitely concentrating somewhere or other. The only thing is wherever I'm concentrating, whether it is aligned with my life purpose or not. If it is aligned with my life purpose, chances are very high I will be enjoying it. If it is not, the chances are very high I won't even enjoy it. For example, if taking rest like sleeping, is my concentration is aligned with. So I'm even happy to take rest. I'm happy to take a nap for 2 hours right now, and not feeling guilty about it. However, if that results in feeling guilty about it, definitely that is not what I'm looking forward to. So it's context specific. And anyway, you and I are concentrating on something or other right now. Like when Sneha is reading it out, I'm concentrating on the matter which is there on the screen. I'm concentrating on the way she is reading it out, the intonation that she is using, the way I'm reading the book at the same time. And at the same time, I'm also concentrating whether Rahul is scrolling it properly or not, up, down, whatever he is doing. At the same time, I'm making meaning out of whatever I'm reading. and then I'm expecting the meaning which other one is taking, whoever is reading it out. So I'm concentrating on so many things. I'm not concentrating on one thing at a time. And there's nothing wrong with it. If I'm getting a value out of it, complete value out of it, nothing wrong with it. Even when I'm driving a car, I have to concentrate on so many things. It's not just looking in front like a tunnel. Maybe peripheral view doesn't matter, so I'm not concentrating on the peripheral view. That's okay. But frontal view, I have to concentrate on everything, including the people who are coming, going, the weather outside there, whether it's raining or not, whether there's too much of heat, whether the AC is working inside or not, whether people are talking, whether even I'm feeling sleeping or not. So where to put the brakes and where to put the accelerator, all these things are momentary concentration changes. But overall concentration is I have to drive safe. So naturally your thought, I would say, I'm only talking about my experiences, okay? I'm not challenging you. My experiences as far as driving a car is concerned is I'm concentrating on so many other things. Otherwise, I cannot drive the car properly. I need to even check whether the cops are following me or not. I need to check whether the signal is working properly or not. I need to check whether the car or the vehicle which is running in front of me, whether it is running at a safe distance or not. Even the car which is coming from the back, whether I'm maintaining a safe distance or not, whether the guy maintaining a safe distance or not. Looking at the three mirrors have become so automatic for me that only when I think I should look at the mirror, I look at. Sometimes even I look at the speedometer also, at what speed I am driving the car. So probably I think that it's not about distraction. It as far as concentration is concerned. Even when you're distracting, you're concentrating on something which is you're distracting about. Concentration उधर ही जा रहा है ना जहाँ पे आप distract हो रहे हो. तो concentration हर वक्त पे हो ही रहा है. What is important is how much am I aware of it? That where I'm concentrating right now and whether it's going to do or whether it is aligned with my life purpose or not. Maybe at least for that moment, whatever be my purpose, forget about life purpose. Like at this moment, I am attending this session after a long time, right? So I know that when I'm attending this session, if I cannot concentrate, I won't get the value. So that's why I was not attending. Today I had time. I attended. I didn't even read the book. So I just sent the DM to Rahul. He sent me the PDF file. But that does not mean that I will not concentrate on whatever being read out right now. तो हर जगह पे ही कंसंट्रेशन जा रहा है. राहुल को मैंने मैसेज तक भेज दिया कि आप मुझे इसका पीडीएफ फाइल भेज दो, है ना. Concentration कहाँ कहाँ जा रहा है. Sneha is asking who wants to read now. Okay, if Pinaki doesn't want to read, if Akriti doesn't want to read, चलो मैं read करती हूँ. Concentration जा रहा कि नहीं. What is most important is whether I am getting distracted of that out of concentration or not. मेरा concentration distraction की तरफ जा रहा है कि नहीं. If it is not there and I am actually concentrating on getting the value out of my participation, my activity, my presence, my awareness is there, probably I'm getting the value out of it. That's how I look at it.
Okay.
The author has written the book as per his model of the world, okay? As per NLP. तो जरूरी नहीं कि उन्होंने जो लिखा हमें उसको मानना ही पड़ेगा.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
है ना.
तो हमेशा रिफ्लेक्टिव रीडिंग भी है, क्रिटिकल रीडिंग भी है.
Absolutely. And that's what I enjoy being in this session, in your sessions, by the way. Precisely, we actually talk about the reflection. आईना कैसा है. अगर आईना प्लेन है तो अपने आप को वैसे ही दिखेगा. आईना अगर टेढ़ा मेढ़ा है तो वैसे ही दिखेगा, है ना.
Can it
Now,
be looked at, Pinaki, when you're saying, can it be looked at as focus on one particular goal? So if the goal is suppose reading यहाँ पे, या फिर just for example talking to one person, तो कोई अगर बात कर रहा है, हाथ भी हिला रहा हो सकता है, उसके पीछे कुछ और भी जा रहा होगा, फाइन, आई मीन वो भी विजिबिलिटी में तो आएगा, बट देन द फोकस और द गोल इज टू हैव दैट कॉन्वर्सेशन, सो यू आर हैविंग दैट कॉन्वर्सेशन.
yes.
So I feel वही है.
I have another view on this. I mean, we have to define a task over here also when we are saying multitasking. So task should be, having what Stephen Covey says, start with the end in mind. So when we are reading, we are starting with the end in mind that I will understand this chapter 8.5 today. That is the end goal and that is the task at hand. Anything which takes me towards that is on that task, which can have a lot of things which Pinaki just mentioned. But at the end, because it is taking me towards that end goal, it is still I am still on that same task. I'm not going to my office email, which is totally unrelated, which will not take me to this end goal. So as long as it is taking me to this finite end goal of understanding this chapter 8.5 in this 1 hour, 60 minutes of a time frame, I'm still on my task one or task A. But if I am switching to a task B, which is totally unrelated, and you know, then I have to leave at, let us say he was reading at one particular page, one particular sentence. When I come back, I have to again re-understand, refocus. I think that is what is the larger intention of the author. That is
Very
how
true.
I see it. Yeah.
Very true. Absolutely. In fact, let me share something very interesting. Even when we talk about something, every time I am using we, my focus is not on me. And every time I am using I, the focus is on me. When I'm using we, when I'm using you, I'm generalizing things. I'm not even focusing on myself too, for that matter. So concentration matters as far as how I am relating to whatever is happening in my life. Anything when I say in a distributive way, like हम बोलते हैं ना कि like when we look things like this, when we look at things from this perspective, I don't care whether it is we, because if at the moment I'm saying we, I'm not only focusing on me. So if I want to focus on myself, my step one is to use my words carefully, as the author mentioned. Every word that you speak out matters. So every time I speak with my concentration, with my way of looking at it, bringing in first person into the context, then I will be getting more concentrated. At least I am concentrating on myself. So this also matters as far as concentration matters.
यस, इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में एक और इम्पोर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट हम ले सकते हैं फ्रॉम द बुक हाइपर फोकस. सो जैसे सौरभ ने बोला कि टास्क को हमें डिफाइन करना पड़ेगा, टास्क क्या है. तो हाइपर फोकस में क्रिस बैले ही सेज कि देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ टास्क, कॉम्प्लेक्स टास्क एंड सिंपल टास्क. तो उसको हम कुछ डायग्राम से भी समझ सकते हैं, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है ये. जैसे ऑथर सेज कि मल्टीटास्किंग हैबिट्स के साथ तो हो सकती है, जैसे वॉकिंग, चेइंग बबल गम, ब्रीदिंग एंड लिसनिंग टू ऑडियो बुक. तो हमारा जो पूरा अटेंशनल स्पेस है उसमें से मैक्सिमम हमारा जा रहा है, कंज्यूम कर रहा है ऑडियो बुक को लिसन करना. बाकी हम हैबिचुअल टास्क कर ही रहे हैं, उसमें कुछ हमें अटेंशन नहीं देना है. लेकिन जब कोई कॉम्प्लेक्स टास्क होता है तो क्या सिचुएशन होती है कि हमारा अटेंशनल स्पेस पूरा कंज्यूम हो जाता है. जैसा कि इसमें हम अंदर वाला सर्कल देख रहे हैं, जैसे जैसे टास्क कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी में बढ़ता जाएगा ये एनलार्ज होता जाएगा. लेकिन देयर आर टाइम्स व्हेन मल्टीटास्किंग डज नॉट वर्क, व्हेन बोथ टास्क आर complex, task 1 and task 2. And author also says कि even when we are doing some complex task like we are focusing on something, और जैसे उसमें बोला था कि FOMO, तो उसके लिए उन्होंने बोला है कि working with intention is the answer. तो ये काफी अच्छा मॉडल है इस बात को समझने के लिए.
What is this one? Can you explain again? Working with the intention.
Pardon, which one?
Working with
This point.
this one.
Working with intention. But this is our attentional space, bigger circle, and some particular complex task is occupying our attentional space. Even then we should have intention what we are working on and what is next. If we lose sight of this thing, then we may be going in the wrong direction at times. तो अटेंशन रेसिड्यू ये भी एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग कॉन्सेप्ट है. ये why author is against multitasking in this book, in this chapter or in this context. When we switch from task A to task B, when both are complex tasks, then there is some attention residue which consumes our energy or drains our energy. So in order to avoid it, attention residue, we should avoid switching cost and do single tasking. बाकी जो भी सब डिस्कशन हुआ सब सही है. हर एक का अपना एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट है, लेकिन इंटरेस्टिंग है. दैट्स व्हाई इट्स अ मतलब ट्रिकी टॉपिक. इसका कोई यस एंड नो आंसर नहीं हो सकता, ये कॉन्टेक्चुअल है. तो बहुत ही अच्छे से मीनिंगफुली ये चैप्टर कंप्लीट हुआ, चैप्टर बी और पार्ट 3 भी ऑफ द बुक. Any other creative inputs and suggestions to read the next part of the book? What should we do? What should we not? Any suggestion regarding duration, timing, mode of
I think
reading?
this 1 hour duration is good. No suggestion as
The
such, just was
way we are reading the chapter today, the book today, this is a better way of doing it, because at least there's a possibility that you will, at least I can talk about myself, that I will make a commitment कि चलो सबके साथ बैठ के कुछ कर रहे हैं. Otherwise, I may or may not even read the book. Because, normally the way I read a book is I just pick up a book, open it, and whichever page opens up, I just read that chapter. That's how I have read so many books, more than 1,000 books I have read just like that. So I never, there are books which I've covered from cover to cover, which I read from cover to cover. There are rarely any books. And here advantage ये है कि book में क्या चीज है वो राहुल को already पता है. So I don't need to dig that out. I just need to be there and enjoy the ride. You know, like he's the driver of the bus. So I just need to be there, be seated, maintain my calm, and enjoy the journey. Look this way, that way, come out with my own thoughts. Take the camera to take pictures from here and there, and those pictures are those small things which I'm picking up in my mind. And enjoy the journey. We already have a good driver. He's an experienced driver. He also knows. He's also explaining. हम कहाँ कहाँ से जा रहे हैं, कहाँ कहाँ से गुजर रहे हैं, इसका क्या खासियत है. So that's the journey I enjoy. So,
That's a good metaphor. Journey, just bus riding, just a very
so
good way to
it's like
look
a
at it.
small vacation out of the day's work. You took a 40-minute vacation and you just ride this bus.
That's a
Bad
good
job.
reframe also. Apparently, that should be a complex task. You are saying it is a vacation from the mundane work.
Yeah, it's kind of daily vacation. You took that 40 minutes out, sit in the vacation, because it's not you and me only, right? There are other people also. So there are co-travelers, co-packs, and everybody's enjoying the journey.
From different backgrounds,
Yeah.
different cities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Majority is from Bangalore today.
और हम लोग जैसे ना बांग्ला में बोलते हैं अड्डा. So it's just like kind of that kind of experience, you know, like you are coming with your own thoughts, I'm coming with my own thoughts, no conflicts. It's just exchanging the ideas and everybody's smiling.
And we are
And
agree to disagree.
absolutely, yeah, nothing, nobody to agree or disagree.
Mhm.
Who all are from Bangalore?
in the same house. Snehaji is also from Bangalore. Saurabh, Snehaji, and Akriti. Three.
Akriti and Saurabh, where exact, which side?
Marathali.
Okay, one end. I am near Kengiri.
Okay.
How about you, Saurabhji?
we stay in the same house.
You are near Kengiri or White Marathali?
No, I and Akriti, Akriti is my wife. Yeah.
Okay, very nice. Good to know. And you invited her also to join this. Very good.
Yeah, she sometimes invites me, and sometimes I invite her.
Very nice.
Rahul, I was just curious about the book titles that you were having. You had some prefixes R, R1, and what do they denote? Is there any specific nomenclature around that? If you
Okay.
can, if you want to share.
Okay. Well, that is my personal own edition, R1, R2. The books, the PDF which I am reading.
Okay.
My
And
own
N is like
highlights
new
and
or
underline.
something. Okay.
Yes. And Pinaki is from Delhi, New Delhi. So you can share whatever you want to share. You want to talk to each other. 5 minutes. Any thoughts, anything?
So what's the duration of the call? It's 60 minutes? I mean, in general, what is
Yes,
stipulated?
yes. It is 1 hour.
What are your takeaways? See, something that I always recommend to participants in my own trainings. I tell them that whatever your takeaways, whatever your aha moments, whatever your discoveries. Now I've added all these new words. what are your experiences? Just write it in the group. क्या होता कि when you write it, उसका दो advantage होता है. Advantage number one, that you could remember what was discussed, so you can get back to it anytime. They actually work as pointers for such situations, such learning environments. The second thing is that people who are not there, it is an invitation for them कि ऐसी ऐसे बातें हुई थी, इस तरीके की बात. You can even express your gratitude to people, like Rahul, thank you for bringing this up, or maybe Saurav, thank you that you brought up this conversation and it was very interesting, or Sneha, the way you read the book, it was awesome, kind of thing. What happens that this creates an environment of attraction among others who are not here. So what happens, either they will be a part of this training, this reading sessions, or they might connect you. ये क्या हुआ था भाई, तुमने इतनी सारी लंबी चौड़ी बातें लिखी हैं, हुआ क्या? What was it? And that way you create more
Oh,
friendship.
great.
Yeah, that's how you create more friendship.
Right.
That makes all the difference.
So Saurabh is one of my oldest reading partners since मतलब ages 8 or 10 years. जब व्हाट्सएप भी नहीं था तब से हम रीडिंग पार्टनर हैं.
Wow. Awesome.
क्योंकि सौरभ was the one who introduced WhatsApp to me.
The techie guy.
तो I was very skeptical कि ये क्या WhatsApp है, क्या क्या नई नई चीजें बताते रहते हैं, पता नहीं, मुझे नहीं करना.
Yeah, so if I ask you what are your takeaways, just one liner, what something you taking away today from this session, one liner, what would you say?
Is that question for me?
A question for each one of you. Whoever wants to raise his hand and talk first. कितने लोग हैं? दो चार लोग ही तो हैं यहाँ.
I think for me the takeaway was कि मतलब I also used to think कि focused मतलब if you're focused you will find मतलब focused का image यही आता था कि you a squinted person and trying to focus on something and doing मतलब. But so the major takeaway for me was that you can be relaxed and also be focused. And
I can be relaxed and be focused.
And yeah, I can be relaxed and focused. And it's a kind of a training that you'll have to do so that
I have to do. I have to do.
I have to do so that being focused becomes a natural thing, and I don't have to make an effort. Yeah.
It really like.
Wow, that's a good training.
Wow. Yeah, Saurabh. कभी कभी हस्बैंड का भी सुनना चाहिए ना.
Sure.
Okay, Saurabh.
Yeah, no, for me, I think the overall reading itself, like you were mentioning, I also never read any book cover to cover. I was mentioning this yesterday also. So yeah, this way I would be able to cover a book, and also I'm gaining meaningful insights out of it because of this casual discussion that we are having, analogies that we are discussing. So I think more than the content, I think the analogies and these discussions make it more. It makes it stick. Books, so we keep on seeing and reading so many books, but not so many books.
I keep on reading so many books.
Yeah, but not every book stays with you, right? I think this discussion is a good way to make it stick and make it useful for your day-to-day life.
Yeah, +1 to that.
Yeah. Yes, Neha, your takeaway?
One line which I wrote down also, that focus gives birth to observation. तो mindfulness practice करना है या instead of that, focusing on your awareness, your concentration itself will lead to mindfulness and observation.
Yeah, actually, that is the only thing which I picked up from the entire thing. Concentration is also a state of being. Are you being concentrated or not? So being concentrated leads you to mindfulness. I really like that statement. It's like आपका काम आसान हो गया, you know, like you don't need to be कि मैं बाकी mindful हुआ नहीं, है ना? आप खाली इतना देख लो कि आप concentrate कर रहे हो कि नहीं सही जगह पे. That made the task simple.
And my takeaway is, in the form of an affirmation, I am easy and alert. So
Wonderful.
this kind of identity which I can work on. All right. See you tomorrow with a new chapter, part 4, chapter 9. Baki, I will share PDF once again in the group to catch up.
Yeah, please do that. I can't assure whether I will be there tomorrow or not. However, if I get time, I will be there. Chances are very I will be there.
Okay. Anyways, it will be on YouTube for you to refer